Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today we are working on this sill. Now we do have a little bit of work cut out for us, so let's start off by welding this section in. Now it is just textured in for now, so let's fully plug weld it and get it finished. Now before I weld in the piece, I've got to make sure that I prep the surface and clean it and make sure to protect it so it doesn't get rusty. Now I'm using some stuff called Weld Through Primer. Now this is copper primer, and this stuff works an absolute treat. This whole corner all along here has got copper on it, so now I've got to do it to the end of this edge. That has all got primer on it, so that is ready to weld in. So let's texture this back in and then we can start filling the plugs. This section in here is all textured and looking nice, so let's start welding it up. We've already got one clamp on, so let's start there. Section is all welded in and looking nice. So got all the plugs done. They're all plugged up. Put a bit of heat into them so they shouldn't come off. So yeah, that is all done up. This corner, I did hack into that, but we don't want to talk about that. Grind it back and you won't even notice. Now all these welds are grounded back nice and flat. This piece that I've done in here that I've welded up is all basically done. Getting ready to mount on the actual sill, and that will be the last step to do it. But before we do that, I'm going to start working on this bit of the sill, which is for the other side. Got a couple holes that I've got to fill up where the trim gets screwed down into. Got to fill those in. And now I've also got to do some rust repair in this section in here. Now I was planning on cutting out this whole section because it is very, very pitted. But my plan is to drill out the rust holes and just fill up some of the pitted divots, I guess you could say, with welds. Let's start drilling this out and we can start welding it up. Alright, so I've just finished drilling out all of these holes that I could find. Now I ended up drilling out a few other bits where it was very pitted. Better to just drill it all out and get rid of as much as I could. So let's start plugging it up. Alright, so all the holes are filled. Now it is time to grind them back. And just like that, all the welds are ground back. Looking nice. Okay, so I'm currently working on this sill, getting this cleaned up, ready to go onto the car. Now, because these are replacement sills, they come with a coating on them, which means to protect the rust. Now, the problem with that is I can't really put any paint over this coating and I can't weld to it with the coating. So I'm trying to get some of this coating off now. I'm using a Scotch-Brite and just slowly rubbing it back. Now, this section in here is looking good. All up here in this section is all done, so gonna keep doing the edges and then we can start prepping the steel. I've just finished cleaning up this piece. Now I have scuffed it all back with some harsh sandpaper so that the paint will stick to it when it goes on, and it is now all very clean and no coating is on it, so that is going to help me a lot. Firstly, so that it protects underneath when we put the paint on it, it doesn't have the zinc coating under it. And it also will mean that when I'm welding to it, it will be a lot nicer welds. So let's start getting some wax and grease remover to start cleaning it up. Alright, so I've got some wax and grease remover. Now, you don't need too much of it, but all this really does is cleans up the piece so that there is nothing really left behind, like any dust or anything that could affect the steel. Now, just wipe it on like that. Make sure you got a clean rag when you're doing this. Just because if you've got a dirty rag, it kind of defeats the purpose of cleaning the steel. So you can just see how dirty this piece actually was when in reality it didn't actually look that bad. Now that that is all clean, we can start prepping it to get paint on it. Okay, so we're going to mask off the areas that we will be covering in the copper, so let's quickly do that. Okay, so to coat the inside, I'm going to be using metal converter, which will protect the steel and stop it from rusting. But this stuff does stink, so I'm going to have to put on my mask. I've opened up the shed so that we've got some ventilation throughout the room. Now, the problem with this is that Melbourne weather is shocking and it's absolutely freezing today. So let's hope that doesn't come in and get us. While I'm waiting for that paint to dry, I'm going to start plugging up some of these holes in here, getting ready to weld onto this sill down here. Now, there is a little bit of rust in this corner, so I'm going to drill out that, and then we can plug them all up. So this piece is all finished up. We've got all the holes filled up the area that had the rust holes in it, drilled some holes and welded them up. So that piece is all done. So let's get back to painting the sill. Right, so this is all dry, so let's get to the satisfying part. It's time for the copper. So this section along here is where it is going to get welded. Alright. So now that's all done. Now I've got a couple areas that I did end up missing, which I didn't see, but I've also got to do another coat on some of the bits that didn't really get too much paint on it. So I'm gonna go back to the metal cover and do another coat. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna clean it up, put some rust converter over it and get it done so that everything is prepped and ready so we can weld the sill straight on. So let's get to it. Okay, so now that this surface is all nice and clean, there's this stuff called rust converter that is supposed to seal the rust and stop it from rusting any further. But this is also says that you can put primer straight over the top of it. So let's smudge this full of it. Now, gotta make sure we get my mask. So let's grab that. It's very wet sort of paint. Just, yeah, anyway, just keep spraying it on, I guess. Alright, so we've got that all covered up. Looking very nice, all protected, and that should never rust again. So we're going to test out this punch tool to drill out the holes. Hopefully it's going to be a bit easier than trying to drill them out. So shout out to Travis for letting us borrow it. Let's get to it. So that made our life a lot easier not having to drill those out. We're getting real close now. Everything is lining up pretty nice, so I'm gonna start tacking it up. Let's get to it. Yep. Oh shit. You're not gonna...
Right, then go on the end if you need to.
Yep, that tunnel. Alright. Ready?
Yeah.
Alright, we're done.
The sill is tacked on.
Nice. Okay, so I've got it all tacked on. It's looking pretty nice at the moment. Everything is lining up. The door especially, we are very happy, is lining up very evenly along that bottom sill. Now, the original sill actually stops here, and there's a separate piece that wraps around. We decided that we wanted to have one straight piece just so it looks a bit cleaner. So that is why we do have a little bit of an edge, because the sills don't come long enough. So we're gonna have to remake that little corner, but we do think it will be worth it because we'll have one clean line. Just to show you from another angle that it is all very even, and I'm really stoked to see this on because I've been smashing this out the past couple days after school, getting this prepped and ready to go on. So to see it finally go on is definitely a big reward. So now that this is all tacked in place, I've got a few things that I've got to work on. So I've got to remake a little square here because that was cut out. So that is where this corner actually sits on. So I've also got to fix this to get that fitting right. So that is another thing I've got to do. Got to get this piece to fit right because that is not fitting at all. So I've got to redo that. This corner in here we cut a little bit too wide, so I'm gonna have to refill that edge. So that's another thing I've got to do. But we also have to fix this back edge. So we probably won't worry about that till we've got the cab back off the chassis, so then we can work around it when it's back on the rotisserie. So I reckon I might just finish welding some of this up. So let's get to it. All ground back nice and flat. It's looking absolutely mint. Now this little section in here I can't really grind back the welds because the door is restricting me, so I'm not going to worry about grinding them off till the door is off. Now I'm going to start working on this little square patch in here. Okay, so this bit is all finished up. Now we're going to start working on these corners. Okay, so these two bits I made in, I'm pretty sure it was one of the first videos I made on the channel. Now when I made them, they weren't exactly perfect because I didn't have a sill to line them up to. So they do need a bit of adjusting. So I'm going to cut into the actual cab along that marking to see if we can fit that up. Well, I've just realised that I've cut on an angle which that was supposed to go flat and I've gone up. But it's alright. Lucky I know a welder. Let's see how high I really muck this up. Alright, well, I'm surprised because I didn't actually do too bad of a job. Okay. Alright, so that's lining up alright, so it's not too big a video. I did go a little bit high on that edge, but I thought I would have cut that a bit more. But anyway, that is fine. So now I'll give this a little bit of a trim because that isn't lining flush on that piece, so we'll give that a buzz and we'll cut off these two tabs. Thanks guys for watching. It has been a big day, a big week getting ready to get this on. It's a massive achievement getting to this stage and it is finally on, so I'm really happy with that and it's good to see the progress is actually coming somewhere. Next week we'll be hopefully finishing this side up. We'll end up doing the rest of this section in here. So stay tuned for that, and thank you guys for watching. Whoop.